模拟课。我们有请。
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
你好。
Okay, I am a storyteller. So, I said before I was a scientist. Maybe that's true too, but I have a story to tell you. So please sit back and think about everything that was said up until this point. So if I'm coming to you and we are in a coffee shop and we start talking about STEM, STEAM or stream, I'd ask you, what is that? What are you going to say? So just think about that. What have we learned today? Is STEM an idea? Is it a curriculum? Is it a program? Is it a philosophy? Well, storytellers are going to tell you that STEM is a way of being. It's a way of life. Now, this might be difficult for some to understand, so I'm going to try to do this very slowly. If you look at my opening slide, you will see that I'm not just at one school. And this might also be difficult to explain. My boss is involved in many schools. He's been to the US for 20 years. He has 5 or 6 different schools and companies that he's involved with. So we are developing international education in China. So I'm a scientist, qualified as a biomedical scientist, but I am teaching anything. Now, some people will laugh. Okay, so what is it that you teach? Well, I'm trying to teach teachers that they can be more relaxed about STEAM. Because the more relaxed you are, the more you can accept what another person is going to try to share with you. Now, okay, let's take this journey. Somebody mentioned Barack Obama and on the panel that was just on stage, and I was very happy because that ties in perfectly with what you can see on the screen. The previous American president promised that STEAM, science, education development, is going to be a big focus of government. Now, we learn from our leaders. We learn from the big leaders. We take the messages and we make it easy enough for our colleagues and peers around us to understand. This is our story. This should be our story. How can we share our life experiences with each other so that we can incorporate STEAM thinking into our lives? Now, the arts have been added. That's the main part of today's story, I think. How does arts become science? Or how does science and art fit together? So now, I'm going to step away from behind the mic and I'm going to ask you to follow a few instructions and go on a journey with me, okay? Do we have a portable mic? Thank you. Okay. What is your perfect STEAM environment? Now I'm going to tell you something from my life, something personal, that means STEAM to me, or I should say stream. because I really love it when my students can write and read very well as too. I really appreciate when that happens. So here's my story. Close your eyes. Imagine you are sitting in a music studio. It is pitch black around you. You cannot see anything. But you are hearing the most beautiful Spanish guitar that you've ever heard in your life. And it's playing one of your favorite Spanish guitar songs. And the music is taking you away. It's transforming you. And you forget about everything that you've ever done in your life. You forget that you have family at home to care for. You forget about your problems at work. And just for 1 minute in your life, you and the music make a connection. Let it linger, let it go. Now stop. Okay, wake up, and let's come back to being teachers. Well, let's come back to being principals and administrators. Now, what would you do if you see that that music was actually created by your own students? Your STEAM students just made the most beautiful music that you've ever heard in your life. How would that make you feel? How would that make you feel as a mother, knowing that your son, who is studying physics, actually connected the guitar to the mic, to the system, and produced it on a DVD? Or even made an MP3 that you play on your phone? Because that's what physics students do. And the music student who is actually playing the guitar has been studying for a few years and really enjoys sharing that space with the physics student. The arts students actually designed the guitar. So on the guitar, there's a beautiful illustration. The guitar is made very well by the engineering students, and the music studio was designed by the biology students because they decided they're going to use only organic materials to make the room soundproof. Okay, so after this story, do you think that STEAM can be possible in your school? So think on that. STEAM is not so far away from us. And I think this is one of the main reasons why, if you read a quote like this, we are all capable of doing STEAM. What we trained, what we are qualified in doing, is already helping us. So that's why you don't need to be afraid of becoming a STEAM enthusiast, a STEAM ambassador. Because I think, this is my opinion right now, and I'd love to prove it to the world, that we are more ready, or readier than what we think we are. We just need to look inside and decide that we're going to do this. Now, this is a slide showing us why many parents would want to send their students to STEAM schools. Students will come to your school because some of the parents will say, go to the school. When you attend the school, you're going to have an amazing job in life. Okay, so if you look at the last bar, look at the big jump. There is biomedical engineers and medical scientists. That will have a huge proportion of jobs available in future. This is the next 5 to 15 years. Now, it's great if the parent is motivated by information like this to send their students to STEAM. We would love that. We just need students to show their interest. Once they come inside our doors, we decide and we help and we learn together with our students how to improve what STEAM or STEM can do for us all. I also studied IB. I teach IB chemistry as well. And the IB philosophy is an interesting philosophy because one of the core values of IB is we educate ourselves. We become educated because it makes us better people. We become better people if we are better educated. Now think about that. It doesn't say that we do this because we want to have the highest grades, that we want to drive expensive cars, that we want to buy very big buildings. It says becoming better people. That is as deep as education goes. And that is why we have so much at stake if we can motivate ourselves to become investors into the whole idea of STEM. Okay, so please look at the slide. Don't spend too much time reading. Think about it as a teacher or an administrator. What are we really looking at? So if I only showed you the picture, many people will say, it's an insect. That's fine, it's an insect. Yeah, there are many beautiful insects and I love studying insects. My biology teacher at school, we did a project and I like insects. But what's that got to do with STEM? Now, if you read the story, because we are storytellers, we are telling a story. Spend a minute and read the story of the person whose work this is. If you read very carefully, you see there is a process. And this is what we are about. We are all about the process. The end result is a beautiful demonstration of an insect. But as you can see, the person who did that was not a scientist at the beginning. They say this person was an artist who later became interested in science. Or it could be a scientist who later became interested in the arts. And what you see is something very simple, but something very profound. It has a lot of deeper meanings. There's a process involved. Sometimes something like this could take years. Now students are capable of doing this. At our school, or at one of the schools I work at, we did something similar with middle school students. Because middle school students can already be taught how to study insects. And it takes about 1 year for them to understand how to read the science and interpret that for making a successful exhibition at school. Now, in one of the classrooms I taught at, we created a gallery inside our classroom. So along one wall of the classroom, there were 10 exhibition pieces just like this, and the students had to write a little paragraph explaining it to whoever came to visit the school, as you see in a normal gallery. So the real life experience of a gallery just comes right into the classroom, and that's magical. That's the magic that makes the students talk about this project even 3 years after they did it. Here's another great example. So on your right of the screen, you see pumice. It's a volcanic rock. An artist saw the volcanic rock, took a photo of it, used Photoshop, Illustrator, some other digital technology, and on your left, you see a very beautiful image that can be used as art. But this kind of art is actually based on a very strong form of science. So integration between arts and sciences sometimes is only one imaginative step away. The only thing stopping us sometimes from doing something like this is that maybe we didn't think about it in an imaginative sort of way. So imagination and arts and creativity is enriching the science that you can do at your school. So let's talk business. Okay, so we dream a little bit, tell the story, and then it comes down to business, because many people want to have the business kind of talk. So, how can you invest in STEAM? Or actually, I should say STREAM, okay? So, let's settle at STEAM for today. How can you invest in STEAM? Number one, you find teachers who are willing. Teachers are capable by qualification at first, but can also be more capable by their willingness to learn. If the teacher is willing to learn while being a teacher, you have a great teacher. That's one of the major assets in your environment. Number two, we can support STEM-focused high schools and districts. Last night I had a very interesting conversation with Ms. Lee. We exchanged ideas on what happens in Taizhou, and I was very impressed by the strong willingness to, the enthusiasm really, for wanting to roll STEAM out to a bigger audience. The enthusiasm is amazing. And in the discussion, one idea came up, but the equipment is expensive. How much is equipment going to cost? Well, equipment and a lab is essential in many cases, but it's not the only thing that makes for a good STEAM program. So the government, the schools, the principals, the companies and industry can come together. What if you develop 10 centers of excellence in Taizhou area? In the province, you could have 10 centers of excellence. And schools can collaborate in using those facilities, university students and high school students. So that's where high school and universities could meet in a center of excellence. So then that means not every school needs the highest level of technology, but it is accessible within the area. That also promotes development. That also promotes teacher training and more confidence, more awareness. Then, improving undergraduate STEM education? Well, that's why we want to send our students to STEM universities. I believe pretty soon every university is going to offer something STEAM-based. If the indications are right, we are heading there, and it might happen sooner than we think. Sometimes you have a lot of resistance in the beginning, but then it takes a short period of change, and then maybe 5 years later, people are made aware that there's no real choice in the matter, that STEAM is everywhere. And that's what some of us are hoping for. So we can continue supporting undergraduate education and STEAM awareness. It might not always come out the way we want, but nothing stops us from being enthusiastic and promoting what we think would be good for STEAM. And then one of the areas I am personally very involved in is research. I believe in the power of educational research. We call it action research. So you are doing research on the job while you are working. And then in a short time you can use the results of what you researched and use it to improve the teaching quality and the education of your students at your school. Action research. I believe it is an essential part of any STEAM program. And my wish is that we can develop a platform where we can do action research among STEM schools. So, there's a few quotes, if you can have a read through. You might find them interesting. We can all be creative. We are all creative. and we can make ourselves open to that. In education, in science, there's a lot of creativity going on every day. Find the sweet creative spot within yourself. Ask your friends at school, your boss, ask your administrators to help identify where the places are for that kind of creativity that will push your program forward. Don't be happy with how things are at the moment. Don't be too happy. Be satisfied that you've achieved what you have achieved. But we can never really be happy with how things are, because the world can improve a lot through education. So if you are the kind of teacher who really want to give a definition to STEAM, you might use this. So STEAM celebrates, incorporates, and recognizes the importance of creative problem solving. That to me is the simplest definition of STEAM, and it's a definition I can work with. So, how much time do I have left? Ten minutes. Okay. So, I don't want to bore you too much. So, this is one of my favorite examples. There is a lady called Nathaniel W, and she has a degree in fine arts. But today, she calls herself an entomologist, a person who specializes in insects or insect science. Don't you think that's an amazing thing? That somebody went to university to study arts, but today she's so much into butterflies, moths, ants, anything crawling that has 6 legs, right? So, but try to imagine her story. If you talk to people and you get to know them better, the story is the thing you remember the most. The life story. What did you have to do to achieve what you have achieved? That to me is the magic of being alive today in 2018, because people are sharing their stories. So much more than what happened when I was maybe 3-4 years old, because it was very difficult for people from different parts of the world to share. Now, sharing is becoming the thing to do, and that's the perfect reason for thinking STEAM has a very long future ahead of us. I found this one very interesting too. That's an installation. And some trees were in trouble. So designers and artists came together to save a tree. So somebody studying biology, somebody studying design, art, curating. There are 4 very big different streams or fields that come together in this image. You can have your own exhibition like this at your school, and it's not going to be expensive. It is not going to take too long. You can do it in 2 semesters. All it needs is the willpower to try. If you are willing to try, if you don't know how to start, give me a call. We can have a meeting and we can work out a stepwise approach. And in 1 year, this can be at your school, and your visitors can be amazed at what your students can do. I like insects too, so please, if I get too excited about insects, don't be upset with me. So there's the Hasbrook Insect Collection, Arizona State University. And the website address is there. You can have a look at it as well. Simple pictures. You can look past it very quickly. And you won't even realize that maybe 2, 3, or maybe 5 years of teaching and education and motivation has gone into something like this. That's a story of humans. It's a human story. Your child, your student, your mother, your father, your son, your family could be involved. It's very inspiring. I'll skip that one. Let's go digital. There's another face of STEM. If you want to know how your phone can recognize your face, how the police can know that you went into the restaurant last night, it can all start in your STEM lab. Okay, so this students can be introduced to forensic science and sociology through a STEM activity. There is another great idea for people interested in biology. There's a company called Gigamacro. So they develop tools for making small things become really big in your life. So you should make friends with them. Get them to bring out people to your school, introduce the lab equipment or the microscopes or other measuring equipment. And before you know it, you can be talking about data banks and genes and extraction and all the scientific things. There are, if you can see on the right side, right at the bottom, even theaters, okay? Arts. We can take our work to the stage. Okay, this is one of my favorites. An acrylic on canvas. And Frank specializes in ornithology. So he also studied arts, but now he is a popular ornithologist at his university. Ornithology and art, wow, beautiful, simple. So there's lots of construction going on. If you like construction, it's a STEM thing. Students can create these models from paper. It doesn't have to be expensive. They just need the idea. They just need the motivation. Okay, so there's some more, but I won't focus on that too much. I would like to finish. Now, the last thing I'll mention is the Prism Lab. There's also another really cool tool for STEM labs. The Prism Lab does 3D modeling. So you stand in front of the machine, scans you, it creates a 3D model of the person that just stood in front of the machine. And this kind of computer modeling appeals to a lot of my students. So, the big question, are you ready? So, well, I am. I'm always ready. That's one of my biggest problems. That's why I never have a free moment at school. I'm always traveling, always working, always sharing. But I love it. Rest is for when I die one day. But while I'm alive, I am going to run to as many places as I can go to learn about what I do. So if you would like to have some communication, I have some photos I took of the events of the day. If you'd like to share, please give me a shout. That's where I can be found. So if you have WeChat, you can just scan it right off the screen. I look forward to good and positive collaboration. I love integration, I love collaboration. At school, they call me Mr. Mistake because I make the most mistakes in my classroom. I'm always trying out new ideas with my students. But I love the mistakes we make sometimes, because that's how we find out what our students love. Because sometimes, just by accident, students tell you things that they have never told their parents. Because you created that kind of environment. Remember, it's the story that matters most. So please continue to tell your stories, continue to share, and maybe Taizhou in future becomes a center of excellence for STEAM in China. Isn't that something to look forward to? So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. Thank you.